This video is a beginner's guide to hunting California quail in their native habitats. The California quail, often called the valley quail, is one of the tastiest, most beautiful, and most misunderstood of all of the upland birds. In this video, I'll give you lots of tips on how to successfully hunt California quail and the types of areas where these quail are commonly found. What I won't do is give you specific hunting spots, but rather I'll teach you how to scout and find spots for yourself. I'll also go over some misconceptions about quail behavior and try to touch on some of the ethics and etiquette of quail hunting. So sit back, pop open a beverage, and enjoy my beginner's guide to hunting California quail. Chapter 1 is about finding and scouting areas to hunt. This is where we're going to start the video because the ability to find and scout your own areas will be the difference between a successful long-term quail hunter and an unsuccessful one. You know, don't be one of those chumps that's always asking people on the internet to give up their hunting spots. You know, the truly good quail hunters out there never give up their spots because they know better and understand that too much hunting pressure in an area will push the birds out of their hunting spot. You know, and once you show someone your secret spot, the fact of the matter is it won't be a secret spot ever again. We're absolutely blessed in California by having an almost unlimited amount of public land to hunt on. So don't be a lazy ass. Get out and find your own spots. Step number 1 is to find public land that has the types of habitat that California quail like. You could go get yourself a BLM, Bureau of Land Management map, a Forestry Service map, or, you know, and that's the old school way. Or you could cheat like all modern successful hunters do, including myself, and download the Onyx hunting app to your phone. The Onyx app is an incredible tool that not only shows you where the public land is, but also breaks it down into zones and shows you where all the water sources are. You know, this app is honestly the biggest game changer in scouting out hunting areas since the invention of the Jeep. So once you pick some likely areas that you might want to scout, load your truck up, put on your hiking boots, and get out there searching for quail. You know, hunting wild California quail isn't a lazy man's hobby. You know, it takes time and effort. You'll be watching for quail tracks. You'll be looking out for dust bath depressions in the ground, especially in the sandy soil. And, you know, you'll be watching for running or flushing quail. If you're in an area with good quail numbers in it, you're also likely to hear quail. So while you're out scouting, it's just as important to listen as it is to watch. In fact, I'm so serious about quail hunting that when I'm hunting turkeys or pigs in the spring, or scouting for deer in the summer, or shooting dove in September, I'm always on the lookout for signs of quail. Scouting around out here, looking for signs of bird activity. Work. Here's some quail tracks right here. The whole side of this road's lined up with quail tracks, so they're out here. So I'm actually walking through here, and I flushed some quail in this area. So this area looks very promising. Okay, so I actually found a quail den or nest, and I don't want to disturb the mama bird that's in there. I don't know if you could see in there or not. There's actually a hole right there that goes back there really deep. Looks like it's even dug underground a little bit under that bush. And there's a female quail in there, so I'll leave her be. Another really important
aspect of scouting an area for quail is you just need to stop once in a while and just sit and listen, because often you can hear the quail. I mean, I'll be honest with you, about 90% of the time I hear the quail before I actually see them. So a lot of times you're walking around, just stop once in a while and just kind of crouch down and sit there and listen. Hear that? I'm about to flush some quail. I think there's some quail right in front of me. I think there's quail right here. Hear that? That's the noise I'm making. There's quail in this bush right here. I can hear them. I'm gonna try to flush them for you. Actually, I see them on the ground down there running around. There he goes. I think there's more quail in here. There's quail right here. I'm chasing them. Oh, there's one right in this bush right in front of me. There he goes. There they go. There's one right here in front of me though. Literally, there it goes. It's like this might be where I'm gonna hunt first come opening day. Been hiking around out here, and this is an area that usually produces and has a lot of birds, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm not even seeing any quail tracks around here. I mean, usually in a gully like this little draw right here, you usually see a lot of quail tracks in that, but all I'm seeing is a lot of rabbit tracks right now. Yeah, it's weird. I haven't come across one covey out here, and there's usually a lot. Last year there was a lot. So I don't think I'm going to be hunting this area this year during the opener. You know, even if you're out in the Mojave Desert and it's just barren sand or salt flats, you're not going to find any quail in habitat like that. They need some type of cover to get into, whether it's these Russian thistles here in the grasslands, or it's sagebrush in the Owens Valley, or it's creosote bushes out in the Mojave Desert, or, you know, it's junipers up in Los Padres National Forest. You know, as long as there's some form of a patchwork of cover intermixed with the grasses, that's good quail habitat.
So to close this chapter, let me state that if you want to hunt frequently during quail season, it's best to have several different hunting areas available to you. You don't want to put too much pressure on the coveys and drive them out of a single spot. So it's best to only hunt them once every few weeks or so. Having multiple locations lets you rotate your quail hunting activity, so the birds are always settled down when you come back to hunt them.
I chose to make this video from the perspective of hunting without a dog. I've owned some great dogs in the past, but I've been hunting without them for years now. And honestly, when I stopped hunting with a dog, that's the point when I started really becoming a good hunter. Without a dog, I pretty much had to find my own quail. And this made me learn how quail behave, what they eat, their daily habits, and, you know, how to move them where I want them to be. Over the years, I've watched quail mate, fight, rear their young, and get eaten by predators. I started approaching quail like I would hunt a deer, you know, and it made me a better hunter in my opinion. It also made me realize that quail hunting tactics needed to be slightly specialized for different habitats. California has the greatest habitat diversity of any place in the world that I've been to. Within 2 hours of my house, I can be in one of the world's driest deserts, at the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states, at the ocean, in an oak woodland, in a city with millions of other people, on a grass prairie, in endless tracts of farmland, or in a dense forest. The California quail is able to adapt and live in all these different habitats, which makes it a pretty amazing creature in my opinion. But being so adaptable to different habitats means that California quail behave a little differently depending on where you hunt. This segment of the video will give you a little insight into hunting various different habitats where California quail are commonly found. We have lots of quail tracks here, a ton of quail tracks. Looks like this is a little quail superhighway right here. So I'm just gonna follow this little quail superhighway up. So I chased those damn quail down into this valley now, and I lost them. But unfortunately, I gotta hike back up and over this damn mountain to get back to the Jeep. These damn things, quail and chukar, man, they always sucker you into going a little bit farther over that one last ridge, and well, maybe one more ridge, and before you know it, you're 4 or 5 miles in and your game bag's still empty. And there she is. Almost gave up looking on for this one. Ugh. Well, it was a decent morning out quail hunting. I put 5 in my bag, and I lost a couple. Got into some really thick sagebrush where this is just a beautiful area. I don't even care if I shoot any birds. It's just beautiful back here. Okay, when I say, you know, we're hunting foothill grasslands, that's kind of a misnomer because, you know, they are at the very, very base of a mountain, usually in the rolling hills, and they are grasslands. If it's just pure grass, you're really not going to find any quail there. Quail need a little bit of cover. And usually I'm not going to hike up any farther because you see there's really nothing up there. But if you come down a little bit further in this gully, you start getting into this Russian thistle. See, it kind of changes a little bit, and you get some scattered Russian thistle bushes around here. And this actually provides good cover for the quail, so they can feed on all of these grasses and forbs, but then seek shelter down in these Russian thistle thickets. So just don't go out to some open prairie grassland and expect to find quail, because quails want cover and there's no cover for them out there. What you'll find out when you're hunting foothill areas is that early in the morning, most of the quail are out feeding, and they like these slopes that have shade on them. And basically the quail tend to feed in these little shade pockets right here. And what that does is it basically camouflages them from hawks and other predators, and humans too. Basically when a covey of quail are feeding in these shade pockets like that, basically it lowers our ability to see them by about 50%. So it's one of the tactics they use. Also, they like to choose these because the sun's to their back. The sun is in the predator's face, so when you look at this hillside, you're blinded by the sunlight. So they're actually pretty smart. And I don't know, I'm going to zoom in here at the top of this hill. there is a sentry up there looking at me. I don't know if you could see him or not, but he's up there just staring at me. And then later on in the morning, as the sun comes up a little bit, maybe late morning, the quail actually move down into these little trenches, these little ditches like this. And the covey will spread out, and each one of them, they'll crowd 1 or 2 birds per bush. And the tactic here is to just walk through these cracks and kick up birds and jump shoot them. It makes it easier if you have a dog, because the dog can just walk along the outskirts of this ditch and point down at the ditch where the birds are. And, so you can go up there and get set up for a shot. Otherwise, without a dog, they're basically just surprising you. They'll flush right in front of your face and fly right out of this gully and over the top, and they'll go out of view real quick if you aren't quick with a snapshot. So that's how you hunt foothills usually. Got a bird down. It's like a headshot. God, these are absolutely beautiful birds. These California or valley quail. And you saw me pick up a couple of birds out of that huge covey at the top of this mountain behind me. You can see I climbed up it. And I basically pushed a covey of about 30 birds up here. And I know chukar do it, but sometimes quail do it. If you push them to the top of the hill or up on the ridge of a hill, for some odd reason, they'll just stay there. I mean, they'll find a bush or something and all of them will just huddle around the bush. So You can go up there, kind of scout for the vegetation where you think they might be out, or you see them running around, and stock up on them. And maybe off the covey rise you can shoot a couple birds like I just did. Some quail in the bag this morning. Not bad. Absolutely beautiful birds too. Perfect day. What a lot of city folks don't know is that much of California is covered in oak woodlands. The entire western foothills of the Sierra Nevadas are oak woodlands. Most of the central coast is oak woodlands, and much of the mountains south of the city of Eureka also have oak woodlands and savannas. And many of these oak woodlands and savannas are loaded with California quail. Although quail can be numerous in oak woodlands, the coveys tend to run rather small, and there isn't as many quail as what you're going to see in the grassland habitats. Oak woodlands can be tougher areas to hunt than most other habitats because there's lots of barriers between you and the birds. California quail in this habitat tend to congregate in and around debris piles, fallen trees, and rock piles. The only time you really see quail out in the open in this habitat is when they're crossing roads or maybe moving between spots. And unlike other areas of California where quail bed down in sagebrush or creosote bushes or juniper or grasses or even Russian thistle, California quail that live in these oak woodlands, sometimes rest up in the oak trees themselves, up on the branches of the oak trees, after they feed. So you won't be kicking them up and flushing them off the ground like you're used to doing in other environments. And lastly, hunting in this environment can be physically challenging. Oak woodlands are generally on very hilly country, so be prepared to hike up hills all day long in pursuit of quail here. It isn't easy hunting. And when I'm hunting up in these oak woodlands and oak savannas, I like to give every fallen tree, brush pile, and rock pile a closer look. The quail are usually in these types of spots. And this is one of those areas where you need to be ready at all times. Usually the quail surprise you when they flush here, and you'll have a split second to shoot before they disappear into heavy cover. Oh, I hear quail down there. I can hear them. They're right down in that valley. Sounds like a big covey too. A lot of activity going on down there. And guess what here? We have a bird down. It's a male. Very pretty birds. Let's get him in the bag. A common misconception people have about the Mojave Desert is that it's just a big, flat, open desert nothingness, and that's not true. The Mojave Desert is actually dotted with a lot of mountain range. There's a lot of rugged mountains. The mountains aren't forested or anything, but it's definitely not all flat desert terrain out here. Got my little hunting buddy Dobie with me today. Out here looking for some quail. Beautiful day in some absolutely beautiful country with one of my best friends. Well, I got two of them in that spot. Looks like a male and a female. I always get my birds out of the game bag and onto the ice as soon as I can. Sometimes out here in the desert, it's like being on the surface of another planet. That's pure evil right there. Don't step on that. Don't step on that, whatever you do. These are all over out in the Mojave and high desert. All right, so this is a male California quail, otherwise known around here as a valley quail. It's easily recognized by the scaled underbelly with a little bit of color on it, and the big top knot on it, black around the face. You could tell it's a male. And only been hunting for about 5 minutes, so let's hope we add to it. One of the things that's really going to disappoint you about hunting the Owens Valley is that more than any other California quail hunting location in the state of California, it's the most hit and miss. Basically, the Owens Valley is on the eastern slope of the Sierras, and it's in the rain shadow of the Sierras. So moisture here is very minimal, but when they do get it, it's also very cyclical. So they go through about a 4 to 7 year cycle here with moisture levels. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, there's creeks flowing through the Owens Valley all year long. There's lakes. There's the Owens River flowing through the middle of it. The quail have plenty of water, and that's true. They have plenty of water. But the thing is, all these plants around me, all these great sage plains in the Owens Valley and grasslands down in the middle of the valley around the Owens River rely on rainfall. They need moisture, and quail need fresh new growth in order to feed. This old dying sagebrush out here does nothing for them. So they rely on the rains not for water, but for food. And in the Owens Valley, I mean, you'll have just stellar years like the 2004 to 2006 season, where there was just, this whole valley was just chocked full of quail, but it was also one of the record rainfall years for this area. And then you look at the period of time between about 2010 and 2017, especially 2016, and the Owens Valley was a complete dead zone. There was no birds out here at all because it was they were in that cycle of extreme drought conditions. And when you got towards the end of that drought around 2013 to 2015, it was real bad out here. I mean, you could spend a week out here and hike the valley from basically Bridgeport all the way down to Olancha, and you'll be lucky to see one bird. So be mindful when you come out to the eastern Sierras, is the quail populations here are very cyclical. It's not like hunting out in the Mojave or in the San Joaquin Valley or on the Central Coast where, there might be a little bit less during the drought years and a lot more during the wet years, but you're still going to see quail. Here, that's not the case. But one thing you can't take away from hunting in the Owens Valley is that it's just absolutely gorgeous, especially in the next week or so when these mountains fill in with snow. And if you draw a tag here anywhere in the eastern Sierras, you could do a combination deer and quail hunt, so it's also a good thing. Well, I'm out here in the eastern Sierras in the Owens Valley hunting this morning. When I started hunting, it was about 15 degrees, and it's since warmed up to about 20, 22, so it's feeling a lot more comfortable as the sun's coming up. But when you come out here late in the season, usually when the bird hunting's better in the Owens Valley, expect some cold temperatures. You can see right here that we have a bunch of quail tracks. It's like a pretty large covey. And my guess is that they travel through this little draw right here. up through the sagebrush where they're out of sight. So I'm going to follow along this and see if I can kick up a bird. Not a bad morning so far. Let's empty out this bag, get these on ice, and see if we can get a couple more. California quail are also well suited for urban living. You'll find them in backyard gardens, golf courses, parks, and farms all over the state. You know, I hunt in a few places where BLM land comes right up to oil company, ranch land, farms, and even a business complex. But make sure you don't enter or shoot on private property. And remember, you know, it's California law that you have to be a minimum of 150 yards away from any occupied dwelling, building, or barn to discharge a firearm. Also, don't accidentally shoot up any oil field, logging, or construction equipment when you're hunting in areas where work is being done. You know, don't forget firearm rule number 4. Quail hunting is actually a pretty easy and inexpensive hobby to take up. You know, all you need is a shotgun, some ammo, your upland hunting license, and a good pair of boots, and that's it. You're out quail hunting. Any 12, 16, or 20 gauge shotgun is going to be excellent for California quail hunting. Just get something that fits good and that you can afford. Most quail hunters in California, especially with our non-toxic ammo laws, opt for either the 12 or the 20 gauge because 16 and 28 gauge steel non-toxic ammo is very expensive and hard to obtain in California. And I'll reiterate what I just said. You know, the most complicated part of hunting quail in California is getting ammunition. You know, we have to use non-toxic ammo, and we're not allowed to order our ammo by mail or bring it in from out of state. And this really limits our options and often forces us to hunt with whatever the hell we can get, you know, instead of getting exactly what we want. Steel ammunition is the cheapest and easiest to get and actually performs pretty well on quail if the velocity's fast enough. So, you know, steel number 6 shot going between 1,400 and 1,500 feet per second is about perfect for California quail. You know, if I'm hunting in an area that also has chucker, I might even step up to steel number 5s. I also highly recommend that you pattern your shotgun ammo with various chokes to find the best combination for you. You know, usually a skeet or improved cylinder choke works out the best with this high-speed steel ammo. You know, on quail anyways. But some guns, you know, they might like a light modified better. The point is, pattern your shotgun ammo with different chokes to find out what your gun likes the best. As far as hunting vests go, I have light hunting vests for those short hikes, you know, maybe just walking a half a mile to a mile or so from the truck, trying out different areas. I'll wear this light vest. And then I have a backpack style vest that I wear for those really long hikes. Some of my viewers have asked what I take quail hunting with me. And basically, you know, I just throw some stuff on the passenger seat of my Jeep here. You know, basically my gun right there. Of course, it's unloaded when it's in the vehicle. My trusty upland vest, you know, loaded with ammo. Got water in here, got my hunting license, a multi-tool. I always bring an extra jacket with me, always. You never know. Bring a little ice chest with me, some waters, some sodas, and that's where I'll put my cleaned out my field dress birds once I'm done with them. And then I'll take a little backpack with me. This is useful if I plan on going on longer walks. If not, if they're short little roadside half-mile jaunts, I'll go ahead and leave this in the truck. But of course I got TP right there. And then if I bring my dogs, I always got dog dishes. Hand towels comes in handy when you're cleaning. Some spare ammo. A knife with the fire starter. First aid kit. An emergency poncho. An emergency blanket. More spare water. And my game shears to field dress my quail. I'll give you a little walk around of my hunting rig here. It's a 2008 Jeep Wrangler. It's got Dana 60s front and rear, King coilovers all around, 40-inch Nitto trail grapplers, method bead locks, Dana 60s front and rear. It's got a custom suspension that I built with an 8-inch stretch on the back, Warn winch in the front, Atlas transfer case, fully outfitted with CB, with a ham radio, off-road lights, and it's been a good, reliable rig for me over the years. It's got me into a lot of places and a lot of trailheads where other hunters couldn't get into. All right, so you're going out for a good full day hike and a quail hunting. I want to show you kind of what I pack here. And this is my Alps Outdoors Extreme Upland Pack. And basically in these two carriers right here, I usually carry a couple backup bottles of water, but on the inside of the pack here is a 2-liter hydration pack. And I run that up through the straps. But basically what I carry is ammo in both of these pouches, both of these side pouches right here. So I have my primary box of ammo that I grab from on my right hand side, and then a secondary box. Then in the side pocket right here, I keep a roll of toilet paper. Absolute necessity when you're out doing this. And I like this pack because it's got this webbing right here, so if it warms up, I can take my jacket off and put it back there. And then on the pouch of this pack, let's see if I can get this open for you with one hand here. I just carry a little beanie for me in case it gets too cold. A little tripod for my camera so I can do a little vlogging while I'm out hunting. My quail call right there. And then, of course, hunting license in there. A mag light, a little mini mag light. A fire starting tool, just in case things get bad out there. Some Ziploc baggies. Oh, you have to excuse me, a bee's trying to attack me right now. Some Ziploc baggies. Hold on, god dang it. Get out of here, bee. Damn. An emergency poncho. Likes this orange backpack. That's the bad part about Blaze Orange. Bees love it. Then my game shears. You know, if I'm out hiking and it's this opening couple weeks of the season here, it might be 90, 100 degrees out here, and sometimes it's prudent to clean my birds up in the field and put them in the Ziploc baggies so they don't sit there and fester in the bird guts. So it's basically what I do. And that's basically my kit if I'm just going to go out there and hike around for 4 or 5 hours hunting. And it's exactly what I did this morning. Got a meal out of it.
Out of all the things that people do to hunt quail, calling quail is probably the least important and the most overrated, but it does have its place. You know, you won't be calling in California quail like you do with turkeys or ducks. You know, so get that out of your head right now. You call quail for one reason and one reason only, and that's to get a response. Once you get a response, you know where the quail are located, and you can go in after them. You know, this is especially useful if you break up a covey. You know, you go to recover your bird, and you don't know where the rest of the covey went. You know, you can use your quail call and sit down and listen, hopefully get a response, and then you know where the rest of the covey is.
I hear them. There they are. About 100 of them. You hear that? They're calling back. Okay, they're right down there now. Now I know exactly where they're at, and I'm not going to call anymore because I might scare them. We're about to get into the action.
Once you get really good at finding quail, the hardest part about not having a dog is recovering down birds. You know, if you know you hit a quail good, you need to put in the time to find and recover your down bird. It's really unethical to just give up on it after a short search. You know, you shot it, you put in the effort to find it. So a lot of people ask me, how do you know when you hit a bird good? Well, if it falls out of the air and smashes onto the ground, you probably hit it good. Also, when quail hunters say, I smoked them, that's a literal term. You know, a lot of people don't know that. They mean that literally. When you hit a quail good, you'll often see a puff of smoke at the impact site. This really isn't smoke. It's a mixture of dust and small contour feathers from the quail. You know, remember, most quail take dust baths several times a day, so their feathers and bodies are absolutely covered in dust, and it often looks like a puff of smoke when you hit them really good with birdshot. It's also good to follow your quail all the way to the ground. And once you do that, that's exactly where you're going to start searching.
So what I'm doing here is I'm in bird recovery mode. And you can see all these little feathers. That this is the site of impact where I hit that bird. And I hit him pretty good. I mean, he did a flip in the air. But he landed on the other side. I was down in this gully shooting. And I basically pretty much he was about up here flying. And I hit him and basically lost view of him. And you can see there's feathers everywhere. But I always mark my impact site so I can feather out and do a search pattern from there. So let's try to find this bird. I don't see it in the immediate area, so I'm gonna have to scout around a lot here. Ah, boy. I don't think he would have went up here. Generally, when you hit a bird that good, they might do some tumbles, and generally they tumble more downhill. I don't think he'd go uphill. But I don't know. You got to check everywhere. Sometimes these tough little bastards get up and run a little bit. But I think I see it. Yep, that's it. That is him right there. It's a nice male bird. So it was a good hit. Looks like it just threw him about 20-25 feet from where I shot him. So never give up on searching for a bird that you know you hit good. That's the ethical thing to do.
In order to legally be able to hunt quail in California, you need a hunting license and an upland bird game validation. You know, seasons vary by zone, and seasons and bag limits sometimes change from year to year. So before planning your hunt, go to wildlife.ca.gov. That's wildlife.ca.gov, and thoroughly read the upland hunting regulations.
Another thing to be mindful of is it's perfectly okay to find a high spot and kind of glass around or just scan the low-lying areas looking for quail. You know, and sometimes I use that technique. Sometimes kind of glassing or going to a high point and scanning the terrain is an effective technique to find quail, but you got to know what you're looking for. You know, quail are ground-dwelling birds. They don't like to fly. They're horrible flyers. They don't like to fly. They like to run around on the ground. So you got to know what you're looking for when you're glassing or scanning areas out. You know, you got to look at the ground. You got to look for birds moving around on the ground. The birds you see flying around down there are not quail. They're probably meadowlarks, jays, sparrows, something else, because quail don't like flying around from tree to tree and bush to bush for no reason at all. They basically only fly when their life's in danger. The rest of the time they're running around on the ground. So, you know, look in the right place. Look in the ground. Look under vegetation, inside a sagebrush. Just look on the ground. Totally ignore the birds. I see too many people and they kind of go out into an area like this with a lot of chaparral or sagebrush, and they just kind of scan the top of the vegetation looking for birds moving between the bushes. And those probably aren't quail, man. That's a wild goose chase. The quail are on the ground. And when you're about to go in really narrow, deep canyons like this, make sure you're holding your shotgun in your hands and you're ready to shoot, because you literally won't have more than 2 seconds to get a shot off. More like 1 second to get a shot off. So don't have your gun resting over your shoulder or cradling it in your arms or anything like that. You have both hands on the gun and your finger on the safety and be ready. Another common question that people ask me a lot is, why do you always see California quail next to dirt roads like this? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, because, you know, whether it's BLM land or a ranch or some other type of property, usually these remote dirt roads get washed out regularly during the rains and have to be maintained. So they grade them every once in a while, maybe every year or so, maybe once every 2 years, but they get graded pretty regularly. And what that does is it turns over the soil and pushes a lot of soil to the shoulders of the road, and that causes new growth, which these quail love to feed on. Also, a lot of times when they initially make these roads and periodically, they'll dump gravel on them, and it makes good grounds for quail to find grit, because, you know, quail are one of those birds, they need grit. They're out here eating these grasses and some leaves and a lot of seeds, and they need to digest those. So, they'll swallow little pieces of grit to go down into their gizzard. And, these quail don't have stomach acids like we do to break down our food. So they need grit in their gizzards to grind up that food, kind of like a little blender. So there's a lot that quail like on the, in and on the side of these dirt roads. So, don't go out on some county road or city road or established road or forestry service road and go out there and start blasting from it. You're asking for trouble. You're going to get in trouble. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere, maybe on a ranch with private roads or on an open BLM area where there's just dirt roads all over the place that off-roaders made, or maybe cattle graze on it and the ranchers made roads to get around on and everything. If there's no traffic on that road and you don't see anybody from a distance, and you could see the road for a good distance on both ways, yeah, you could hike along those roads and hunt, and that's perfectly acceptable. But just be careful what you do. In California, you have to either leave the head or one fully feathered wing. I find it just easier to do a full cleaning job on these things and leave one fully feathered wing on it rather than the head. Got Becca's awesome quail dish here. Oh my God, it looks delicious. Can't wait to dig in on these bad boys. So we got a nice, light, healthy meal here. Some roast quail.
Okay, this is the chapter on ethics and etiquette. And I saved this part for later in the video because it's very divisive and it's a sensitive subject among a lot of upland hunters. And I'm about to piss off a lot of old school quail hunters out there. One of the most regurgitated myths among quail hunters, particularly the self-righteous types, is that overhunting is having a negative effect on California quail populations. These misguided souls love to falsely claim that breaking up coveys, shooting singles, or going for your limit will decimate quail populations. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's not one shred of science to back up their claims. First of all, quail don't need to be in coveys to survive. In fact, in the spring and in the summer, California quail break off into mating pairs and stake out their own little territories, which they'll vigorously defend from other quail. I mean, I've seen them fight. They go at it. That's right. For almost half of the year, these quail do not want to be in coveys. In the fall, quail begin to form coveys again because they want to, not because they really need to in order to survive. Another completely BS fabricated claim that some quail hunters like to make is that these coveys are family units, and if you shoot them, you wipe out the entire family forever. I mean, really, think of all the incest that would have to take place in order for that claim to be true. I mean, how could you logically think that a covey could survive as one family unit over countless generations? I mean, that makes no sense at all, does it? What actual science tells us is that coveys of California quail are actually more fluid than people think. With groups of birds breaking off from the covey and new birds often joining the covey. A covey isn't some kind of exclusive member club like their country club is. I've actually asked real biologists who monitor quail populations about the effects of hunting. Even one biologist who was against hunting conceded that legal hunting has no effect on overall quail populations. Basically, the success and failure of quail populations is determined during the spring and the summer, not during hunting season. The fate of California quail rests solely on the shoulders of climate and habitat. So California quail populations are cyclical, just like our weather patterns are. So the way things stand right now, backed by real science and biological studies dating back 60, 70 years, hunters are not negatively affecting quail numbers here in California. Don't let any snooty, condescending country club hunter try to make you feel guilty about legally hunting quail. In fact, the act of you buying an upland tag and ammunition is actually helping quail more than you know. So we actually need more hunters out there. While it's true that lots of hunting pressure can push coveys of quail into different areas, seen it before, everybody has. But because hunting pressure is pushing the quail onto another piece of land, don't just assume that all those birds are dead, because science doesn't back up that assumption. In an area you always did good in, if it starts getting a lot of hunting pressure and the birds move on, you need to find other areas to hunt. I mean, that's why it's called hunting. And that's one of the reasons why you never tell anybody about your secret spots. Quail will move out of areas also because a water source dries up or the lack of food. I mean, quail like new shoots, new growths. If you're out in the Owens Valley and it's just a field of dead or dying sagebrush out there, the quail aren't going to eat that. So, understand that just because you saw quail in an area one year and they're not there the next, it doesn't mean they all died because of hunters. That's ridiculous. And but most of the guys that spread this nonsense are club hunters that only know how to hunt pen-raised birds. So when they fail at hunting wild birds, they like to blame other hunters for it. You need to understand that being a successful quail hunter year in and year out requires lots of work and research, just like any successful deer hunter would do. If you don't find quail, it's your fault, not other hunters' fault. You need to get off your ass and work harder rather than point fingers. I mean, honestly. Well, now on to quail hunting etiquette and sporting behavior. Deer hunting ethics is pretty well defined, I'd say. Basically hunt free-range animals in a manner that gives them a fighting chance to escape you and puts you in a position for a quick kill to minimize suffering. But quail hunting ethics are much less defined and also riddled with hypocrisy. Usually, from my experience, the guy who tells you should only shoot on a covey rise and not pursue birds because it stresses them out too much. The guy who says that is usually the same damn guy that lets his dog run around chasing birds for practice before the season opens. The guy who says shooting birds on the ground is unethical is usually the same guy who mostly hunts pen-raised pets that are released in a field next to his truck. So rather than espouse all these fake rules a lot of club hunters make up, based off of no fact and no scientific evidence, I'm just going to give you the skinny on what the majority of public land hunters think. First, let's discuss shooting birds on the ground. This is a really sensitive subject among quail hunters. Shooting birds on the ground, first of all, is not illegal in California. So you're not breaking any laws by doing it. But most reasonable hunters, notice I said reasonable hunters, believe that taking a pot shot is highly unethical. A pot shot is basically when you shoot into a covey of quail while they're all huddled in a group feeding on the ground. And you could fill up a cooking pot with one shot. That's why they call it a pot shot. Although technically legal to take pot shots are considered probably the most unethical thing a quail hunter can do. You're basically just killing rather than hunting at that point. And there's another big no-no when it comes to shooting birds on the ground. It's considered dangerous and disrespectful to shoot birds on the ground in areas where dogs are working. Obviously because you put the dog's life in danger by doing that. So don't do that. But as a reasonable hunter, there are times when reasonable hunters don't look down upon shooting quail on the ground. For instance, if you're taking a little kid hunting for the first time, they'll probably never hit a bird in flight, and they'll quickly lose interest. So letting a kid shoot a bird on the ground or perched up on a limb is considered an acceptable way of letting a kid get their first bird. And hopefully that gets them interested in hunting. Also, if you cripple a bird, it goes down and then pops back up and starts running. The most ethical thing you can do at that point is shoot it again on the ground to put it out of its misery. And the last point I want to make on shooting birds on the ground is that those snooty country club hunters that only shoot pen-raised birds will never know the pain of hiking through the Sierras for 8 hours in search of mountain quail. Most of those mountain quail, especially in the lower part of California, will never flush into the air, but instead they'll haul ass away on the ground. On days like that, no reasonable hunter is going to fault you if you take a bird or two off the ground. You worked your butt off and hunted them down fair and square. You earned those birds the hard way, and that's ethical enough for me. The next issue of ethics among quail hunters is shooting singles. Singles are birds that have been separated from the covey and flush as a single bird rather than a group. The premise here is that a scared lone bird is just too vulnerable to ethically shoot. Once again, this sort of gun club snobbery makes no sense at all. Think about it. If you shoot a flying bird that's flushing with a covey, or you shoot a single flying bird, you're still killing a flying bird. The same bird dies in the same manner under the same circumstances, whether it's a single or it's part of a covey. By the same logic, you could say that hunting with a dog is unethical. The whole argument is pretty stupid. The next item we'll discuss with quail hunting is dog etiquette. You may not hunt with a dog, but sooner or later you're going to be on a hunt with other people who have dogs. Like I said earlier when we talked about shooting birds on the ground, if the dogs are out there working for you, do not shoot birds on the ground. It's way too dangerous around those dogs. Also, a lot of people who don't own hunting dogs aren't aware of this, but all dogs are at different levels of skill, and many are still learning when they're out hunting. So it's considered bad form and extremely rude to criticize or discipline somebody else's dog. Let the dog owner handle his own dog. And it goes without saying, never muzzle or shoot at any dogs. That's a good way to get your ass kicked. But the most universal quail hunting ethic you should instill in yourself is not wasting or unnecessarily wounding birds. This means not making those nearly impossible long shots on birds and passing at shots that have a very low kill potential. It also means exercising enough self-control not to hunt in terrain where it would be next to impossible to recover a bird if you did shoot one.
You'll often run into areas like this. And let me bring the camera down. I'm 6 foot tall, and this is right at my eye level right here. And let me raise this back up so you can see the scope of things here. I hear quail in here. I hear them talking to each other. I hear them doing their little call in there. So they're in there, but you know what? In my mind, even with the dog, it's really unethical to shoot quail and crap like this because you'll never recover them. I mean, never. Not even with a good dog. There's not even a place for a dog to walk through in here. Oh, you hear that? Quail right there. But that's pretty much off limits. You know, they outsmarted me. They're pretty safe in there.
And next it comes to shooting birds late in the day. There's, if you follow your state's game laws like California, the sun up to sundown, it's perfectly legal to hunt late in the day. The sun's going to go down in a half hour, an hour. You could legally still be out there hunting. And if you choose to do that, I'm not going to judge you. So this is a personal ethics thing. I make a personal choice not to chase birds to sunset. In areas where it gets really cold at night, like the high elevation national forests or the upper Owens Valley, or even sometimes, even Los Padres up in the Gorman area. I'll stop chasing birds in those areas well before dark. This is to give the singles time to regroup with their buddies so they can huddle together through the night. Remember that stressed out birds might leave your hunting area, so you want to give them time to settle down and feel safe again.
You hear that? I hear some quail up in there, but we have about an hour and a half to sunset, so I'm not going to chase that covey. Basically, just a personal rule of mine. I won't chase quail. I'll chase them all the way up until there's about a couple hours left of daylight, and then I'll stop. Because basically, when you break up those coveys chasing birds, I like to give them a chance to, kind of get their bearings and reform their coveys before they bed down for the night. So I don't chase them until dark. I did it when I was younger, but I don't really do that anymore. I'll quit a couple hours before the sun goes down and give them a chance to regroup.
And lastly, respect the land and the environment. An unfortunate part of quail hunting is dealing with both empty shells and wads. It's our duty as good stewards of the land to pick up as many shells and wads as possible. For the shells you can't find, it's good to pick up other people's shells that you come across in order to offset your own lost shells. Always leave the hunting grounds better than how you found them.
Remember in my hunt camp mail video, I talked about karma? Well, not only do I pick up my own shells, but I pick up the shells that other people leave too. And that's basically my only hunting superstition I have is leave nature cleaner than you found it. There. Maybe that'll keep away the gods of irony. So this is what I picked up today out hunting. And these are my shots. And I think there was only maybe one I didn't recover. And maybe two. And these are other people's shells that I picked up. You want to know what's crazy? Have you noticed that every time you go out hunting and you see a bunch of shells laying around where no one picks them up, they're always 12 gauge shells. And that really tells you something about the type of person that hunts with a 20 gauge, doesn't it? California quail are one of America's truly great game animals. They're beautiful to look at, challenging to hunt, and provide excellent table fare. And best of all, they provide hunting opportunities throughout the entire state. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. Find your own legal hunting areas, don't pressure those birds too much, and keep the area clean. If you follow this simple advice, you'll enjoy hunting quail and enjoying the resource well into the future. I apologize for this being another one of my long videos. I know I promise to keep these videos shorter, but I just had a lot of material to cram in this one. Actually cut out a lot of material, like patterning my shotgun for quail and field dressing birds, because the video was just running way too long. But I hope you enjoyed this video despite its length, and that new hunters out there found it valuable to their future pursuits of quail. You can still reach me with any questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. That's desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. Well, thank you for watching my video and subscribing to my channel. And as always, good hunting.